The town of Farmington. Respecting history, planning the future.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Farmington Town Council meeting and ask you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we begin with a presentation. Patty?
Good evening. Tonight we are here to honor Katarina Wang. She received her Gold Award at a ceremony last month, which I attended. I am a Girl Scout leader in town, but my girls are in 5th grade. So looking at Katarina's accomplishments really make me wonder if my girls are ever going to get there, because I have to tell you, she's pretty incredible. She attained her Gold Award, and a Gold Award, for those of you who don't know, honors Girl Scouts at their highest level of achievement, similar to a Boy Scout Eagle Award. There were 3 Gold Award recipients at this year's Girl Scout Gold Award ceremony, but 2 of them were recognized by Town Council last year. So tonight we're recognizing Katarina. Katarina is a member of Troop 66831 with Troop Leader Amy Rosenfield, who is here tonight. She has been a Girl Scout for 12 years. As part of her Gold Award, she created an Asian American club at the high school, which travels to the middle school each year to work with 7th graders on their East Asia Day. She also created a Chinese cultural badge program for younger Girl Scouts. In addition to her Girl Scout Gold Award, however, she's highly accomplished. She is a member of the National Honor Society as a vice president. She is a member of the Math Honor Society, the Spanish Honor Society. She is the president of the Asian American Club that she created, the editor-in-chief for Farmington High School's yearbook, a member of the Tri-M Music Society, and an all-state vocalist in 2017 and 2018, in addition to playing violin. She's been a dancer for 8 years, and she choreographed this year's high school musical Fiddler on the Roof. She will be attending Northeastern University in the fall, and with that, I will read the proclamation in Katarina's honor. Whereas the Girl Scouts of America help train the youth of our community with skills which serve them well in the future, and whereas many of our youth participate in activities of the Girl Scouts of America which benefit our community, and whereas one of the crowning achievements of Girl Scouting is the attainment of the Girl Scout Gold Award, and whereas Katarina Wang from the Girl Scouts of Connecticut Council completed the requirements for the 2018 Girl Scout Gold Award, and whereas Katarina Wang's Multicultural Connections Gold Award project aimed to foster a community of cultural diffusion and a shared cultural understanding in the Farmington community. And whereas Katarina Wang created the Asian American Club at Farmington High School, which travels annually to Irving A. Robbins Middle School to conduct a presentation to the 7th graders called East Asia Day. This presentation brings together peers of many different backgrounds of East Asian culture, ranging from Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Laotian cultures to introduce the students to different facets of each culture. And whereas Katarina Wang's program allows the students to interact with role models, as well as ask questions and show their curiosity for topics that they can then conduct self-directed research projects on. And whereas Katarina Wang has demonstrated superb leadership skills as president of the Asian American Club, vice president of the National Honor Society, editor-in-chief of the Farmington High School yearbook, and serving on the board of directors for the Girl Scouts of Connecticut. Now therefore, be it resolved that on behalf of the Farmington Town Council, I hereby extend to Girl Scout 2018 Gold Award recipient Katarina Wang our best wishes, and we hereby proclaim June 12th, 2018 as Katarina Wang Day in Farmington. dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 12th day of June, 2018, signed Nancy Nickerson, Chair of Farmington Town Council. All right, and this is your You're very welcome. Good luck.
Congratulations. I'd like to now ask the Farmington Land Trust to come up to the table.
Is this a microphone hiding down here?
There's a mic right there. Yep.
That mic right here.
Yeah. And we're happy to have you here tonight to talk to us about your, the proposal and the, from the Land Trust.
Well,
You can introduce yourselves to the group.
my name is Evan Coles. I'm the Vice President of the Farmington Land Trust.
And I'm Doug Pelham. I'm the treasurer of the Farmington Land Trust.
And Bruce Edgren behind us is the Executive Director of the Farmington Land Trust, and he's there backing us up.
Welcome.
So we're here to talk about the piece of property just south of Will Warren's Den. If you go up to the big radio tower there on the green trail and keep going south toward Plainville, you come to a 94-acre piece of property that the town bought last year, 2017. We've been working on it for years, and we finally closed on it last year. And we got reimbursed. We applied to the state for a grant, open space grant. We got reimbursed over 2/3, 65% of it, which was a surprise to us, given that the state has zero money. But we got, we paid about $850,000. We got about $550,000 back from the state. In return, the state kept a conservation easement on this property. So, done deal, right? We got the property, there's a conservation easement with the state, in favor of the state. The Farmington Land Trust comes in and says, well, if at some point in the future, developers start putting pressure on that land, and at the same time, you know, maybe 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when secondary land becomes more valuable and possible to develop on, and the town has a short-term budget that they want to plug, and suddenly they're talking millions of dollars that the town can raise by selling this, they could theoretically pay back the grant from the state and then sell the land, canceling the conservation easement. So the Farmington Land Trust, we think long-term, perpetuity, we'd like a stronger conservation easement than the state has. We'd like stronger than a future town council would have. So that we'd be a third party coming in and saying, no, we're watching over land all over the town. This is part of our portfolio, and we're going to protect it forever. You can't undo it. We believe that the money that the town's taxpayers are paying was for open space, not to plug some future hole in the budget, not to undergo any kind of pressure from a developer, but to hold it in perpetuity as open space. And we would provide that if we were given a secondary conservation easement over that property. So that's why we're here. Doug is going to talk about what the conservation, what we are going to give the town in return for that, other than the dollar that I believe we're going to pay for it. But we're pushing hard for the fact that the state conservation easement could possibly be undone. Zoning, town council, a future town council that doesn't have the same kind of energy that you guys have to support open space, especially if the pressure starts rising. So that's why we're here asking for this conservation easement.
So as Evan said, the idea is to add a secondary conservation easement on top of the state easement that's already there to further protect this property and protect it against future pressures of development or disposition that's not consistent with the conservation idea. And we've been in discussions with the town planner, and some of you are aware of the drafting that we've done for a conservation easement that would be in favor of the Farmington Land Trust granted by the town on this property in addition to the conservation easements that's there. And what the land trust would provide in return for the granting of the conservation easement is we would provide stewardship services to the town, so that we would be obligated at least once a year, we could do it more often, but at least once a year, go up to the property, walk the property line, and make sure that there are no encroachments of neighbors, make sure that we've identified any problems with the use of the property that are inconsistent with the conservation idea. We would be able to identify if there's, for example, trash or campfires or ATV use that are prohibited on the property, and then we would report that to the town. Now, one of the concerns that the town had was the Farmington Land Trust not being able to dictate to the town what to do about that, and we agree with that. We are not intending to be any kind of an enforcement role in this. We would just simply be the town's eyes and ears. And the idea is that the town, because of the town's own budgetary pressures, doesn't necessarily have the time or the money or the energy or the personnel to keep an eye on this property, whereas we do. That's what we do. We have 300 acres in town, about 100 of those have conservation easements on them. We have stewards for just about every property in town that go out and we look at them and we protect the property and we keep an eye on things so that we can be sure that it is kept consistent with its intended use. So that's the other half of what we're asking for and what we can provide to the town in return for the extra protection, again, consistent with the conservation easement that's already there. Questions, comments, concerns? We'd be happy to talk about it if you have any further ideas about this.
I have a question for you. You mentioned the town giving back or changing their mind, so to speak, which I knew if we ever did that, you'd have to pay back the state to begin with because the property is for open space. Have you ever known the town to do that on any piece of property that we bought as open space?
No.
I have
Not to our knowledge, no.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Sure. Is there any precedent for this in other towns or town?
We haven't looked at other towns, but there is precedent in town. There's a property on Diamond Glen, which was given by Paul Ingram and Henry Mason to the town, and a conservation easement at the time was granted to the Farmington Land Trust, so we have stewardship responsibilities on that property as well. There have been 2 encroachments on that property, one that happened about 15 years ago or so, which was before my time on the Land Trust, but one happened actually about 3 or 4 months ago, and one of the neighbors called up and we went out there, and one of the neighbors had actually gone onto the property line and started to clear some brush. And again, we're not the enforcement, but we reported that to the town because the town owns the property, and we're able to resolve that very quickly without any damage to the conservation of the property, other than there was some clearing of some brush, but luckily no trees were cut down. So there is precedent in town for that. That gift to the town by Paul and Henry had as it the condition that the easement was granted to the land trust at the time. So that was their request and responsibility. But that would be the same idea that we would like to duplicate for this property.
Thank you.
Yes.
The property that you're speaking of, how accessible is it to the roads? For example, is this something that town staff would be able to easily monitor, or do you really need a steward who can hike to this location and keep an eye on it?
There is an access road that comes up from Plainville off of Metacomet, but this property also has the New England Trail traversing it, which is a hiking trail that stretches from Guilford all the way to the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border. So much of it is rugged and you can't get to it except for hiking. There are some pathways that you could, for example, take an ATV up there, and we do see them from time to time, even though they're prohibited. But by and large, it's pretty much a hiking, you have to hike to get there.
There was a road built that went to what used to be sort of a, there were buildings up there. It was sort of a resort hotel kind of thing, and that road is totally washed out now. They have a big concrete thing, which ATVs, dirt bikes, go up that road and around the concrete thing from the Plainville side. The town staff can't really drive up that road. It's basically the trail that gives access to the property, which is monitored, and there are volunteers who take care of the trail from the Connecticut Forest and Park Association, one of whom is on our board, and we, as part of our stewarding, would be coordinating with them, and if there was a problem, they would be able to communicate through us back to the town how, what the conditions are.
Thank you.
Bruce?
Thank you for coming. Looking at this stewardship report, is this something that you guys put together?
Yes.
So in terms of this report, this is something that someone in your organization would go through and check off these items that if they apply during their inspection once a year. Not necessarily that they're going to act on it, it's more of informing the town.
Right.
That's correct. Right. So we would be your eyes and ears, so to speak, and then the town would have to decide what, if anything, they wanted to address that's identified in the report.
We go on to properties that we own, and we'll pull invasive species out and improve the natural state of the properties. Where we have conservation easements, we don't go on other people's property, but we do monitor the open space conditions and make sure that really the terms of the conservation easement are maintained.
And to build on that thought, we do have properties that have trails. Occasionally trees will fall on the trail, and so we'll bring work groups up, and our volunteers will show up with appropriate equipment to clear trails and keep them open. And so we would, obviously be willing to do that too for the town. I mean, our volunteers are always ready to lend a helping hand if needed in order to help maintain the property, but that would be at the town's direction.
So just to add on to that, because that's what I really wanted to understand. So this property line report, essentially in the beginning, because it's not property that the land trusts own, you would just be reporting back to the town. But there is potential of some items if the town said, hey, you mentioned the tree, identifying the tree, saying, hey, we have equipment. Would that be something that you would also notify the town in terms of we have the ability to take care of it? Because I just see a lot of different things like trash and all this stuff on this report. Poison ivy was one of them. So, understanding it's primarily a report just to report back to the town, but besides the tree falling down, would there be other things that the land trust would be willing to take care of if there was something going on that piece of property?
Yeah, we would talk to the town, I would think, at the time, and if we reported, for example, the trash is getting a little bit too built up in one of the entrances or something, the town may say, look, guys, can you give us a hand and have a work day and bring some people out with trash bags and gloves and clean up, or trees down after a storm, and we need some help to clear the trail. You just have to call us, and we'd certainly be willing to talk about coming out and helping out in that regard. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, Ed.
Yeah, could you just expand on a little bit the difference between the existing conservation easement from the state and what you guys would be proposing? Is it a larger conservation easement? Are there more restrictions? Is it both? If you could just provide some more information on that.
Sure. The draft conservation easement that we've been talking to the town with is actually patterned on the state easement. So the restrictions in the easement that we're proposing are virtually the same as what the state has. The difference, though, is that the additional work that, or obligations that we would have to the town, which is the stewardship piece of it, that is not in the state, obviously not in the state conservation easement. So that's the primary difference between the two.
Okay, and the size of the easement is the same?
It's
as
exactly the
same?
same, yeah, it's
Same,
just,
okay.
it covers the whole property.
The whole property?
Right.
Great, thanks.
Other questions? Yes.
Thank you for coming, this is informative. So it's a pretty large piece of property, 94 acres. Is it reasonable to cover all this ground and things that you check on in just once a year?
No.
Okay.
This,
So for this particular
that form
property-
we use for a little half acre behind somebody's house as well as a 94 acre piece. So obviously this piece, we would be, I do know they take dirt bikes up there. There have been reported teen parties and fires, mostly on the Plainville side, but
Yeah.
it is accessible. Again, we would be working with the Connecticut Parks Association to just keep up the property and keep it as natural as possible. We're not, I don't think any of us can imagine us trying to get rid of all the poison ivy and all of the invasives on that piece of property, whereas a half acre behind somebody's house, we might be able to keep control over that stuff. So it's, again, we think that piece of property, Nancy was saying, you know, have we ever seen the town give up a piece of open space? No, but again, 100 years out, we don't know what kind of pressure is going to be put on these kinds of open space, and it's hard to think that far out, but this is the kind of thing that we're really looking to try and kind of nail it down so that it can't be reversed. And our monitoring as open spaces to really protect it and keep it open and keep people off of it. Maybe not pick every little invasive species off of it or every little piece of trash off of it, but help the town in just kind of protecting that land, which is part of the town's obligation in getting that conservation easement from the state in the first place.
And to expand on that, what we're really trying to create here, I think, is more of a partnership between the land trust and the town. The land trust was initially founded in 1971, and it grew out of the Conservation Commission to be a private 501c3 charitable organization, but to partner with the town and partner with the goal of maintaining open space in town. And so we see this as an expansion of that role. It gives us a little bit more ability to help the town out. The land trust for many years got property donated to it by various people, and we've accumulated a bunch of properties because of those charitable donations. But the town has been kind of taken over the role of acquiring open space in town because of the land acquisition committee and the bonding money that the residents have earmarked specifically for open space acquisition. So the town has kind of taken over what many would think of as a traditional land trust role, which is to buy property and preserve it. The town has been doing that too. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify a role for the land trust kind of as a partnership with the town going forward. You know, again, as Evan said, we're always thinking about perpetuity. So not today or tomorrow or 10 years or even 50 years from now, but forever, so that we can continue to assist the town in maintaining open space forever for future generations.
Other questions? Is the land trust actually buying properties now?
We are. We are. We've actually, I think for the first time in our history,
Because I didn't, yeah. I
put
wasn't
a
aware.
piece of property under contract to buy. And it's actually a parcel on Diamond Glen, which is just up the hill from the piece that I mentioned before, which the town owns and the land trust has a conservation easement. We're working with the Connecticut Water Company to acquire the piece right on the corner of Diamond Glen and Reservoir. You may, if you've driven by there, you know there's that little brick building there, and there's I don't know if you've noticed, there's a big, huge storage tank that's under the ground there, and they're going to be demolishing that, and then there's a piece just down the hill from that as well, which is also part of the acquisition, and we're actually buying that property, and we're in the midst of a fundraiser to get the funds to do that. So we're very excited about that, so because it's something new, a little new for us, and it really enhances, we think, the not only the conservation of that corridor on Diamond Glen, but there's also a lot of historic value to that property too. That was the site of some very early stills and water power in the town going back a couple hundred years, and there's actually a couple of dams on the stream that comes down from the reservoir, which we're looking to preserve from a historical standpoint as well.
We're paying a nominal amount. This is
And not a huge number, but we are paying something for that property, so.
4 figures.
Pardon me?
4 figures.
So
Oh.
it's not,
This is not a large amount.
The other question I had, are we working in partnership now? I thought with different pieces of property as working together, the town and the land trust with some of the properties that we do have as open space.
we are. You may recall that the Land Acquisition Committee in town, which is of course charged with acquiring land, 2 of those seats are actually seats reserved for the Farmington Land Trust.
Mhm.
So we do have 2 members from our board that are on that committee. Evan, you're one of them, right? So I should let him talk about that really, because he's the one that.
Yeah, other than that, we do work, as Doug was saying, on that other piece on Diamond Glen, that we have a conservation easement. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, but we,
No, I thought we were already working as partners with pieces of property in the town.
Yeah.
Without having easements on properties to do that.
Oh, without
But we
has-
were partners in many different ways in the town, without easements even, you know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think
Is that-
so. And the aqueduct, do we actually have our trail go on the town land at all?
Yeah, the town owns, I think, a part of that.
A part of
And
that.
part of the trail on that is also town property as well as land trust
So-
property.
Could be, I'm
My
not sure.
understanding.
Yeah, and then, of course, the Diamond Glen parcel, but other than that, and of course, the Land Acquisition Committee, but right now, there is no, the partnership that we have with the town isn't as close as what we're proposing here, which is the stewardship piece of it, which, what is the benefit that we hope to bring to the town and provide to the town.
I think the town did put gravel down on the path that runs along the Pequabic River on the Coles parcel that goes out to the meadows. There's been, over the years, certainly a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I know our relationship is a good one that we've always, I thought, certainly we've always had and certainly can enhance. Can you just explain to me a little bit more about what the one piece that we do have already, the Diamond Glen piece, the Mason piece, can you explain to me, or maybe, how did that come about that we actually, I know you explained it a little bit, have the easement?
Yeah, again, I wasn't with the Land Trust at the time when that donation was made, but going back and looking at the history of that, Paul Ingram and Henry Mason, who are cousins, owned that property. It was in their family for many years. And in fact, I think it was, if you go back in the land records about 100 or so years, you'll see Ottilie Mason on the land records. And so that parcel had long been in the family. And it's my understanding that Paul and Henry decided that they wanted to donate that to the town as open space, but they also wanted to add a layer of protection above and beyond, because without any, the restriction that they wanted to add to that was to grant an easement to the Farmington Land Trust. So the deal was basically, yes, we're going to give this to the town, but the town is then going to grant an easement back to the Farmington Land Trust, and that was a condition of the donation. So that's how that got enacted.
Okay, so that was a condition of the town buying the property, was that we have the easement together.
It was a gift.
I think it was a gift. I don't think the
Yeah.
town
It's a
bought
gift.
that. I think it was a donation and a gift, I believe.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, I just want to say I happened to be on the tour the other day on Sunday, out at the Tungus.
The tree safari.
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And it's just, it really was a wonderful treat to go through the property, but also just to have the land trust, the awareness of the property and what's out there and what's possible was great. So I just, the plug for that in the future to do those kinds of things, I think were great. So, okay, well, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Any public hearings? None? New items? Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment. Would anyone, if anyone would,
You have a new item.
oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to add an agenda item L15, appointment of justice of the peace.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Okay, thank you. Now, any public comments, please state your name and your address and come up to the podium, and you have 5 minutes to speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Hendrickson. I live at 165 Main Street in the Village, and I've been a resident of the town of Farmington for about a little over 10 years. I have a growing family, got 2 sons under 2. I have 2 rescue Shiba Inus. You might have seen me walking on Main Street or in some of the land trust property that was discussed earlier. I have a passion for the town. It's a lovely town. It's a beautiful town with great residents, great leadership. I can't tell you how much I enjoy living in the town, what drew me to the town, the historic character, the emphasis on recreation, the very strong school system, and the very efficient management of the town. I am here tonight to voice some growing concerns about safety on Main Street. There's been an increase of speeding, distracted driving, and much needed sidewalk repair. Those are issues that I feel really need to be addressed for the safety of the residents. The town, as you know, and many of you have been involved in, investing and supporting revitalization efforts, beautification of the town, traffic projects, and I'd encourage you to continue to look at ways to enhance safety, specifically on Main Street. And there's a couple things that I encourage, and I apologize if this is getting feedback. Encourage you to continue to look at. I've had some conversations with the town manager, Kathy Egan. She's been very supportive and receptive. Talked about things such as strategic addition of rumble strips in conjunction and collaboration with the Department of Transportation. They have seemed to deem that not possible under their existing guidelines. However, I encourage you to look into their guidelines. They are vague and very subjective, and there seems to be opportunity to add strategic placement of rumble strips on parts of Main Street to increase pedestrian safety. As many of you know, there have been increasing accidents on Main Street. Several cars have crossed the sidewalk and hit telephone poles on Main Street during heavy pedestrian hours. There's traffic study information that the police department has looked at, and again, Kathy referred me to the Traffic Safety Board, and I'd encourage you to look at the information that they've provided me. I'm sure Kathy will be able to provide that to the council. Also, the Main Street Meadow intersection, where you take a right turn, there.
Somebody's phone.
Never happened. Maybe just put that as a little bit different. Oh,
I'll put my cell phone in the back pocket. Not vibrate, just in case there's something happens at home. So the intersection of Meadow and Main Street, when you're making a right on Meadow, if any of you have walked down there, I think CJ, I've seen you walking on Meadow several times. When you hit the crosswalk sign, it flashes walk for I think 2 or 3 seconds, and then flashes don't walk. Routinely, cars make a rolling right on red, and I would tell you, having 2 kids on a stroller, it's very uncomfortable crossing the street. And there's a boulder instead of a curbing there. So that's something I encourage you to look at. So in addition to those concerns and researching sidewalks in Farmington and looking at town ordinances, there appears to be mixed interpretation of town ordinances regarding the responsibility of sidewalks and maintenance in Farmington. Sidewalks to schools are maintained by the town in some areas, however, not in all areas. It seems to be inconsistent interpretation of town ordinances. I encourage you to look at that and understand the responsibility and inform residents of their responsibility. Many residents I've talked to on Main Street are unaware of who's responsible for what with regards to the sidewalks, whether it's removing brush or general maintenance on the sidewalk. And again, those of you that have walked on Main Street or live on Main Street, you know there are many areas of sidewalks that are very difficult to walk strollers, and in particular, ADA compliance. If you're in a wheelchair, it's intimidating and discouraging to go up and down Main Street. And what's a little ironic is there have been some ADA improvements to the ramps in areas, and I kind of call these installation of the ramps, the sidewalk ramps to nowhere, because nothing is paved. So if you're in a wheelchair, you might be able to get onto the sidewalk, but then not be able to navigate it. So it's a little ironic, and I encourage you to look into that. So I do respectfully request that the town take a more serious and formal look at pedestrian safety issues within the historic village, as well as the town as a whole. I want to again thank Town Manager Kathy Egan, who's been very generous with her time. Also, Council Member Charette has been very generous with his time looking into safety issues within the Farmington Village. I know that this is one of many competing priorities in the town of Farmington. I see on the agenda you have several things you're looking at from a building-wide use and a high school project, and I know this is might not be something many people are talking about. However, I do believe this is critical. I'll continue to talk to members of the council and look forward to continuing the conversation and be happy to support the council and the town in any way with regards to pedestrian safety on Main Street. That's it. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Thanks for all you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Okay. Next, we have reading of the minutes.
I move to approve the May 8th, 2018 regular town council meeting minutes.
Second.
Any corrections or changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I move to approve the May 15th, 2018 regular town council meeting minutes.
Second.
Any corrections or changes?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
A few minor ones. Section C, I believe it's on page 1, Emily Pettit's last name is spelled P-E-T-T-I-T. In section D3, regarding the ad hoc vote, it says that Mr. Cianci voted no, and then it says it was a unanimous approval.
Just approved then.
Yes. And then on page 3, and I apologize, I don't have the section number, but in the name of who's going to be on the committee, it should be Bill Beckert instead of Bill Becker. So there's a T at the end.
Maybe we need a sign-in sheet and pass it out to the members. That would be helpful in the future.
Anything else? All those in favor of the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
I move to approve the May 22nd, 2018 regular town council meeting minutes.
Second.
Changes or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I move to approve the May 29th, 2018 regular town council meeting minutes.
Second.
Corrections or changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay, I move to approve the June 4th, 2018 special town council meeting minutes.
Second.
Any corrections or changes?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just one on June 4th, my name's,
Madam Chair wrote the minutes for this one.
oh, yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
My name's spelled with an I, not a Y.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Any other changes or corrections? All those in favor of the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Communications. Kathy?
None.
Report of committees. UConn. We met on June 8th, and we had some information from the UConn people that represent UConn. Right now, there are 5,500 employees. They said that there are over 1 million people that are in and out every year, which is amazing to me. Also, that there are 27 towns in Connecticut that are bigger than the UConn facility. That's out, that's it. Over 169 towns in Connecticut, and 27 are actually bigger number of people more people than UConn. So I found that amazing. One of the other things that we talked about was, or that they talked about, was passing the word that UConn is here, and they have many, many services that they're hoping will continue to draw people from Farmington as well as the surrounding areas. So it was a very productive meeting, and everything's going well there. So that's it. Land acquisition.
Land acquisition did meet this month. The list of properties that the town is interested in acquiring has been updated, as well as the map has been updated as well with a reorganized numbering system to make it easier to find the properties on the map. And those are both available on the town's website. Additionally, on May 18th, the town did close on the purchase of 2 properties on Plainville Avenue for open space purposes, 440 Plainville Avenue and 8658 Plainville Avenue. The next meeting is this Thursday, June 14th at 5 p.m. here in Town Hall.
Thank you. Green efforts.
Green Efforts met last week, and the next meeting is not until August 7th. We do take the month of July off. It will be at 6:30 here in Town Hall Council Chambers. We are in the process of exploring ways to reduce energy usage in town and reducing waste, including alternatives for trash removal and ways to encourage composting in town in a way that would not necessarily increase the town's expenditures, but make it easier for homeowners to compost their food waste. And additionally, there is a program called Sustainable Connecticut, which does certify towns as sustainable, but we have questioned whether or not it's valuable for the town to get that certification, given the amount of steps and process and just red tape that you have to go through. But we're definitely looking at the task items on there as ways for the town itself to become more sustainable without having to undergo a lot of the red tape of actually becoming certified. So taking the steps without necessarily certification.
Can I have the name of that certification again, please?
Sustainable Connecticut. It's actually Sustainable CT.
Thank you. Report of the council chair and liaisons. I would like to thank everyone that participated in the Memorial Day Parade, the community members, all of the schools, that there were many kids out there and bands and organizations that were marching in both the Unionville and Farmington Parade. And I also wanted to make sure that we thank the VFW for putting that together, particularly Paul Kraus. He was the one in charge of it this year, and I think it was a very successful, and thank goodness it didn't rain. This is the first year in 3 years that we've had the parade because it's been raining the last 2. So we were very, very happy to have the parade this year, and the community certainly shared that enthusiasm with all the people on the sides of the streets, and it was just wonderful. And both of the programs, we have a program at both at Unionville, at the gazebo, and at the cemetery, Riverside Cemetery in Farmington. And that involves some of the students from the high school reciting some of the poems, and I really want to thank them. And it was really a wonderful program in both, and quite a nice presentation, and a thank you to the veterans. So thank you very much for everyone participating, and thank you for organizing that for the VFW. And that's it for my report. Board of Education.
So the Board of Education and the Town Council had a joint meeting on May 15th, and that included a tour of the Farmington High School, and we set up 2 ad hoc committees to gather information to prepare for the process of addressing the high school facility. And so we'll be talking more about those, obviously, the Survey Committee and the Facility and Finance Committee. And the Survey Committee will begin meeting this month, and the Facility and Finance Committee next month, so things are moving with that. They had a meeting on the 21st of May. There was a reception and recognition for Bill Silva. Madam Chair, you were there giving a proclamation from the Town Council. The designation for Bill Silva was the 2018 Connecticut Association of Schools High School Principal of the Year. So we're very proud of that, and he was thoroughly recognized. There are summer projects that they're getting in place for teachers' professional development, so we don't think of teachers necessarily working over the summer, but our teachers work very hard and get a lot of training and professional development organized by the district, so they'll be busy this summer. The board approved the renewal of the cafeteria contract with Chartwells, and the Noah Wallace Fund Committee approved 3 proposals for a total of nearly $34,000 for next year for projects across the district. And then their last meeting was, their most recent meeting was June 4th. There were a lot of student awards and recognition of Farmington High School students and the economics team as well. And that's it.
Thank you. Chamber.
The Chamber will be holding a business after hours at Altria tomorrow evening, which is June 13th from 5:30 to 7, and that is located at 111 Scott Swamp Road for anyone who would like to attend. Also, they are holding a Mondays in July, which is a women's golf clinic at Tunsis Golf Course. It's $180 for 4 sessions for anyone who's interested. There will be food and drink at those evenings. And on the 17th of August is their annual golf tournament, which will be at Farmington Woods, and that benefits the East Farms Volunteer Fire Department.
Thank you. Economic Development.
Yes, the Economic Development Commission tomorrow is hosting their first, this is a new series of events called Business Resource Breakfast. So this differs a little bit from the quarterly business breakfasts that they already host. And this event will be at Powerhawk headquarters, which is on Route 6. The time is 7:30 a.m. It's free to attend. And the title of this event is Energy Efficient Solutions to Save You Money. So Powerhawk is going to present different energy solutions that solar and energy efficiency that can help save businesses in our community money. This was the brainchild, this series of business breakfast events was the brainchild of Brian FX Connolly, and also supported by everyone on the Economic Development Commission, and I encourage everybody to attend.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could just add to that, Powerhawk was kind enough to have a table when we opened up the Route 6 bridge. So for anyone who gets the opportunity to go to the breakfast, I would encourage them to go to the trail, take advantage of the bridge, and walk over Route 6.
Yes, thank you. Farmington Historic District Commission.
Nothing to report.
Housing Authority.
They meet tomorrow, June 13th.
Human Relations.
So the Human Relations Commission met on May 23rd. Nancy Parent informed the group that she has put in a grant application to the AARP to improve accessibility at the Senior and Community Center. The first request is for restroom entrance doors that would be automatic in the Senior Center, and also an audio system for hearing impaired for presentations and meetings. And that system could actually be used elsewhere in different town buildings when we have a need for that. And Nancy also added on a request for additional bike racks across town, because one of the qualifiers for that grant was to improve bikeability. So that was an area of focus. So she included that as well. So I guess we'll hear whether or not we get that grant. And there was also discussion about more expansive guidelines that are being used in some communities, either on a state, local, or national level. They're called the 2011 U.S. Access Board Guidelines. They're more inclusive and kind of go a step further than ADA. And it's kind of the wave of the future in accessibility and universal design. So they're very much looking for getting the word out about that and encouraging the town and the state to get on board with those.
Thank you. Library Board.
Nothing to report.
TPC.
Yes, TPZ has been very busy. Just to highlight a few things, folks may have noticed on the corner of Wooden Tap, Bridgewater, Road and Brickyard Road. Construction has started for the 120 units of assisted living, as well as 32 units of elderly housing. So if folks are wondering what's going on over there, that's what's being done. The construction of the 5-corner commercial property, that also was started. Some clearing of the trees have been cut down, and the site work has been cleaned up, and they're going to start construction as well. Loman's Plaza has had an informal meeting with the Planning and Zoning in February. They're proposing to come forward to the Planning and Zoning with a formal application in the fall of 2018 for the Loman's Plaza. St. Patrick's Church, I've mentioned this quite a few times. They went through all their approvals, and the latest update is they plan on doing their groundbreaking in 2019.
Okay, thank you. A lot happening. Unionville Historic District.
Yes, the Unionville Historic District Commission is continuing to work on the details for their September house tour. So this is an event that they haven't done before. This will be the very first time they're doing this event. And basically the idea is different houses from the Unionville Historic District Commission will be part of the tour, and you can walk through and actually walk into the houses and learn a little bit about the architecture and the history of the homes there. As more information becomes available, I'll be sure to let the town council know. They haven't settled on a date yet, so they're still working out the details.
Thank you. UVIA.
UVIA's last meeting was canceled, but the next meeting is currently scheduled for Wednesday, June 20th at 7 p.m. here in Town Hall.
WPCA.
No news to report. The next meeting is tomorrow.
Other liaisons. Pat.
Madam Chair, yes. Just a brief update on the Inland Water Courses and Wetlands Commission meeting. They had a public hearing last Monday regarding the New Horizons proposed additional development of adding single occupant apartments to their property. It was heavily attended by both residents at New Horizons as well as many residents in the Westview Terrace, Oak Ridge, Malls Way neighborhood, because there were some concerns about what that development would do to, frankly, flooding issues in the area when it rains. New Horizons revised their plan in advance of that public hearing to change a lot of where the development was going to be, and overall, I would think the public comments made during that meeting were fairly positive. Inland Wetlands is still reviewing the application, and they expect to have a decision at the next meeting on June 20th.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports? Okay. Report of the town manager. Kathy.
You have the written report in front of you. I just wanted to report on a couple of things. I don't know if anyone had read about the MDC lawsuit, that a class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of the residents of East Granby, Farmington, Glastonbury, and South Windsor. And the lawsuit claimed that the MDC wrongly charged water customers in these towns a non-member town surcharge, and Farmington is a non-member town. The MDC supplies water and sewer services to its 8 member towns. East Granby, Farmington, Glastonbury, South Windsor are non-member towns which are provided water service but not sewer service because we have a water pollution control plant. The Glastonbury was the one who originally filed the original lawsuit, and they won the lawsuit. So that's why a class action lawsuit's being filed. So about 9,000 businesses and residents and town facilities could be part of this class action suit. The lawsuit cites 3 counts. The town of Farmington is not required to take any action. Our residents are already included in the lawsuit. I did receive a few phone calls from various residents asking about it.
I have met with the other non-member towns on this issue and spoken to Glastonbury and the attorney who's filed the class action suit on behalf of the residents, and he'll continue to keep the non-member towns updated on the progress of the lawsuit. So I don't think there's any other action we need to take at this time, but we are following it closely, and even though we do have just a small portion of our population that is serviced by MDC, I think it is an important issue, and it'll be interesting to see how the class action suit works out. Live streaming will start next month. It will start at 6:55 p.m., so be on time for our meeting because we don't want to be on TV live with no one sitting up here. So we also will have the regular Comcast Channel 95 and 1090 and Frontier Channel 6061. So you can still catch the meetings when you go home and watch it if you choose to. But we are going to be live streaming. So I think that's going to be great for the town council. The last item I just wanted to have some discussion about is we talked about it at our strategic planning sessions was the Farmington Center Committee, that we needed to set up a committee as soon as possible. I was thinking that possibly phase 1 of the charge should be to conduct a public participation community outreach process to engage the community in 2 different topics. One would be to develop a beautification plan from the entrance to the village beginning at the intersection of Route 4 and Mountain Spring Road. And 2, develop recommendations to the town council regarding the future use of Parsons property, including ownership, control, and use. And I think the first thing is about the ownership of the property, as we've discussed at a few of our meetings, whether or not the town of Farmington wants to own the property or not own the property. As you know, the state project is wrapping up, so the time is becoming more and more critical to this. I, just for discussion purposes, had thought that the makeup of the committee could be some town council members, an economic development commissioner, some historical representation, a Farmington Green and Library Association, because as you know, the library green is out there, so maybe a representative from their group, some village center business owners, a member of the Human Relations Commission, and Farmington residents. We do have the right to first refusal, and I think we do need to act quickly about whether or not who is going to have the ownership and the control of this property. So I put this as for a discussion and looking for some direction to finalize a charge and to see if I'm going in the right direction from where we want to be.
Okay, we did talk about this, Bruce and I and Kathy, the other day. And one of the concerns we have is that it is going to be coming up very, very soon. And the state will be, as Kathy said, we have the right of first refusal. And with that, we've got to start talking about it and have some discussion as a council discussion and get a committee together, because I don't think the state will wait long for us to be making a decision if we want to move ahead with some kind of action. So I think we need to get this together, and I'm hopeful that we can get a committee together, and when we're coming to the July 10th meeting, actually put a committee together at that day. So Bruce, do you have any? Or
Yeah, I just have to say, I know that it's something that we definitely need to react on fairly quickly, and I guess we don't know, Kathy, yet of when the state will come to us.
I'm having some of the staff kind of try to vet that to get more detail exactly on the timing of it, but appraisals have to be done. There is some different things that we do have to go through a process, so it's not going to be tomorrow, but I think that I think we just have to have clarity very soon that we have interest in the ownership, and that if that's the case, then I think the state isn't going to force us to go as long as we know that we've made a decision that we do want to own it, then we have to go through a process of how we're going to purchase it.
Sure. And then just in terms of the beautification plan, was there, just a point of clarification, was there some money in a budget left over for that?
Yep, there is some money in the budget still. We had it slotted for some trees, maybe along the roadway. Also, again, I think there is there is some money there for some trees and some beautification, and then also again talking about beautification of the islands and some things like that. So there is, I think, some money to do that also.
Yep. So just to wrap up, I do agree that we need to put a committee as soon as possible because this could come up, and like to be proactive and not reactive if we can, so.
And I think one of the important things we talked about was to get a committee together and then have a public forum or some kind of public meeting so that we can hear from the community and the residents and what thoughts they have. And that we'd like to do as soon as possible. So that's why I see an urgency. I think we see, we want to get going with this. So if there are any comments on what you think about what Kathy's talked about or what we've talked about, we'd love to. CJ?
Sure, whatever it takes to get this moving forward, I think it's critical. As you mentioned, it's the right of first refusal to purchase this property, so the state will put a price on it and we'll have to decide what we're willing to pay. The key here is if we do not take advantage of purchasing this property, it's out of our hands. Whatever happens to it, we have no say in it. So I think it really is critical that we continue to have control over the property. So I think this is a very important committee to put together fairly quickly.
And one of the things we've stated a few times is, again, I think that I see this as this committee being in different phases, and I think if we take it slowly and just try to take it one step at a time, but the first thing is if there's going to be ownership and control, and I don't think at this time you really necessarily have to decide exactly what the property is going to be used for. It's just more about whether we want ownership of it, and then we can still have time to vet exactly what the property would be used for exactly, so it's really about control of it and then us having our own destiny for it, so.
I think that's really the important thing is we're not up here, I'm not up here to talk about exactly what's going to happen with it, but to have control of the piece of property that people first see when they come into our town, how we want that to look and what we want to do is really, I hope, in our control, the town's control. And that's why I think it's important we move on it right away. And then to hear from the public about what kinds of things you'd like. Is it historic? Is it open? Is it whatever that may be? But my concern is that this is a short window and we won't have, once this is gone, there won't be another opportunity for us to take advantage of this. So.
And we have vetted, again, a lot. We've had charrettes about what the property is going to be used for, and there's a lot of common ground, and what we've incorporated into the TPZ regulations. And of course, when we say control, it's, it will always still have control of the TPZ, but I think there's a lot of common grounds to it, and a lot of the work has been done. But again, I think the important point is it's not exactly what's going to be happening with the property. It's about control of the property.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more in terms of the importance. I look at this is once of a lifetime that we have an opportunity to do something of an entryway into our community. And this is something that will be there for hundreds of years depending on what is being built there. And knowing that we could have that control, I'm hoping that we could. But obviously it's always up to the residents as well. So that's where I stand, just knowing the fact that this is vacant property, something that can be built there. This is something that's going to be there for hundreds of years of the entry into our town. So.
Yes.
I agree with all that. Just a question: when do we anticipate the state's going to come to us with a number, and how long do we have once they do?
Yeah, we're still trying to work that out right now. Again, there's appraisals that have to be done. There's some different things, so we're trying to make contact with the state to try to get a timeline about how fast that moves. So
Well, we have some time, obviously, but not much.
Not much.
Okay.
I think, again, like I said, if we have come to the conclusion that we do want to purchase it, I don't think the clock is going to tick as fast. But if we hem and haw about whether or not we're going to do it, then I think the state's going to push us to make a decision.
And they expect to be done this summer with Route 4, so.
Right. And the town has pretty much have stated in the past, that's why we have the right to first refusal, that the thought was of purchasing the property. Mm-hmm. But again, how you do that, and if we're going to go on to a referendum, and what the price would be, and again, the timing of some of it.
Yes,
So with the Gateway Committee in its previous format, you're saying that this committee will benefit from that information and
Sure,
and
absolutely.
that data.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't go a slightly different direction, it would be up to this new committee, but they would
Right.
benefit from all that work and time that people.
And over 400 people coming together
Right,
for
right.
days.
Right.
So-
Right.
So it's not a new conversation, but this is just taking it.
Right, and I think
Next
there's
level.
there's a lot of common, I think, common ground. There's just some differences, and I think some of it is just about the level of development. I think there's some people that would be very happy if that space became completely open space, and then I think there's some people on the other side of the equation that would like to see a nice West Hartford development where you can walk down, and there's a lot there, but that's what came out in the charrettes. But I think there's a lot of people that are in the middle there that would like to maybe see some open space there, and like maybe like, you know, with a fountain, some historic buildings that they've talked about, that the Historic Society maybe having their building over, being there, maybe a welcoming center, and also having, you know, some type of restaurant or, you know, coffee shops. And so I think that there's just a combination of things. So there's a lot of work that's been done, and so.
Other thoughts or questions? Yes.
I was just going to say, I think I agree with just about everything everyone's saying. I like the charge you've outlined here, Kathy. I think that's appropriate. And I think we're all hearing the urgency that this could, you know, come up in a very, and it probably will come up in a very short amount of time. We're going to have to make a decision. And just echoing some of the remarks that Bruce made, is this really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to be able to have control and shape the entrance into our community that all of us, or so many of us, pass by every day.
Okay, so I think I'm getting a feeling, consensus that we want to move forward with this, and more to come, Bruce. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Oh, motion for approval of the town manager's report.
I move to approve the town manager's report as presented.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just one. On the live streaming, it says it will be live streamed where? Where can people, if they wanted to go to the website for live streaming, or are they going to a website, where is it being live streamed?
I think it's on the TV, right?
So that would mean people without cable.
We don't know.
I just,
Live TV.
so,
Nutmeg, yeah.
no, on Nutmeg, on the Nutmeg channel on TV, but I think that they're working on the next step, that you could live stream it onto the webpage and some different things, but the first thing is it's just gonna be live TV.
Okay, good. Yes. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Appointment, L15.
L15, I move that Christian Hoheb Esquire be appointed as Justice of the Peace for the town of Farmington to fill the balance of a 4-year term beginning immediately and ending January 4th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Old business? None. New business? N1.
I move to approve the following town council meeting scheduled for 2019 and set the date for the annual town meeting.
Second.
Well, you can.
Yep, this is, by charter, this is our meeting schedule. It has to be set early based on certain regulations that we have. And so we like to set it early also so we can get rooms booked and the high school booked and all those types of things.
What I just had a question about, is there any, every year they talk a little bit, and we talk to the legislature a little about it, any flexibility, because it's so early, generally there's no budget from the legislature. Is there, I don't know of any discussion that's gone any farther than that. Is there nothing changed, Kathy's?
My understanding is nothing's changed, but Joe and I did on our side really go through this to see if there would be any changes we could make to make it further out, and there's not.
Okay.
There's not.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
As far out as we can go.
Yeah.
Is certainly better. Okay, any questions? CJ?
I do have one
Sure.
question or concern here. That is one of the dates. It's the date of our town council public hearing on the budget on April Fool's Day. Just saying, you've got flexibility there.
I just, because I want to make sure I have clarity, because we could make changes on this, except then we would be either having our meetings on school vacation week, and that's something that we've chosen not to do. So there could, if we move something, then our public hearing on the budget is during school vacation week. So that's why what we've done in the past.
It's on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, so how the charter works, so I do want to make sure that it's not that we can't make changes. We haven't made changes because then it falls on the vacation week. So it's either the annual town meeting falls on the vacation week or the public hearing falls on school vacation week. So we've set it up so it doesn't do that. And so there's no other movement that we can do. So I just wanted to make sure we are clear that you can change it, we just haven't.
Okay. As far as we know, there's a full April break too. That's the school
Yeah.
calendar, so. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. And two.
I move to approve the following unobligated CIP capital improvement balance to transfer to accounts listed below for the purpose of closing out various inactive CIP accounts and reappropriating surplus funds to other projects that have been budgetary shortfalls.
Second.
As you can see, this is our transfers. We did do quite a bit of transfers during the budget process, if you do remember. It does look like a big number, but if you see that really the large number is the energy performance projects, that was transferred into the exterior lighting project. The energy performance projects was our grant that we received, and so that's the grant funding, and then we did that to our exterior lighting project, and that's how we pay for that.
Questions for Kathy? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, and three.
Okay, I move to appoint a Farmington High School Community Survey Committee with the following voting members. Beth Kittner as Town Council Chair, CJ Thomas as Town Council Member, Ellen Sayuda, Board of Education Member, Bill Becker, Board of Education Member, Chris Fagan, Board of Education Member, and two town residents, Camille Simpson, as well as Marcia McKinnon, Maura McKinnon. McKinnis, sorry about that.
Can I have the spelling of those names?
Sure, yes.
Second.
Can I have the spelling too?
You can give her this.
We have their emails and stuff from our chart.
Okay, there are also non-voting members here.
Oh, sure,
and
sorry.
That's okay. But I just wanted to say that on both committees, I just, at our previous meeting, had said that I would act as ex officio, so I plan on attending them, but I'm not on either committee, so, okay. Is that good, Kathy, as far as reading? Okay, perfect. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
I move to appoint the Farmington High School Ad Hoc Facility and Financial Committee with the following voting members. Edward Giannaro's Town Council Member as Chair, Bruce Charette as Town Council Member, Paul Cianci as Town Council Member, Christine Arnold as Board of Education Member, Elizabeth Fitzsimmons as Board of Education Member, and two town residents, Michael Smith and Sharon Mazzochi. And the following non-voting members are Joe Swetsky, Town Finance Director, Vince LaFontaine as School Business Administrator, Tim Harris as Director of School Facility, Kimberly Wayne as Assistant Superintendent of School, Matt Ross as Director of Technology, Farmington High School Facility Member as needed, and Farmington High School Head Custodian as needed, Town Financial Consultant as needed, Kathleen Egan and Kathleen Greeter as needed, and other town and board support support staff as needed.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, I should have made this comment at the beginning before we did either committee, just that there were many, many, many people that set their names in to be involved in these two committees. There are only 4 out of all the names that we had that were going to be on these committees, and I want to thank everybody for submitting their names. There are going to be more committees and more things coming up to be involved in, and I hope that people do go to these. There are going to be public comment at all these meetings, and there's going to be a lot more going on with these, with the high school and with other committees as we mentioned one tonight. So please stay involved, and please, there are other things to be involved with. So I just want to thank everybody. It was amazing, the outpouring of people. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I moved to approve the following property tax refund totaling $1,658.24.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, and there is no executive session tonight, is that correct? That's correct. So we now have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second? Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?